Welcome back to the C3PO show. We're back here in LA. My man, Austin Lersten,
Corey Sullivan.
We here again talking tight ends for the 2017 draft class. OJ Howard, obviously the number one tight end, has that speed, power, has it all. Potentially a top 10, top 5 pick in this draft class. And right now we're just talking about players, tight ends that could possibly be future Seahawks. We know with Jimmy Graham potentially coming to an end sooner or later, we're going to have to address this position. So we're just going to talk about some of the guys that we think could overtake Jimmy someday down the line. And we're going to start you off with Evan Ingram from Ole Miss. He's a guy who has a higher round projection. Turning the film on him, and he has a lot of downfield ability. Good hands. And, he's a good prospect. Gets the job done. And did you see anything from Evan Ingram?
Yeah, Evan Ingram, I think, is that breakaway speed, like you said, someone who's just going to – and I think in the NFL, especially nowadays, you want guys who are going to make big plays for your team. I think last year the Seahawks addressed that with pro size. They wanted a running back who could just break away from players. And I think that's a nice thing to have at the tight end position. A lot of guys are just known for kind of being possession guys or just getting 10, 15 yards down the field. This guy who could really be a difference maker for your team, especially at the number 2 spot coming in. Jimmy Graham can continue to give you his, 20 to 35 yard gains. And this guy could really break away from other teams and from safety. So, someone who could really threaten the middle of the field, maybe open up some things for Jimmy. And someone who would make sense. It's been a high draft pick on for the Seahawks, maybe a first or second rounder.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not opposed to, a tight end. And they stay in block. It's something that any Seahawks fan knows that we need help with. And another guy that could help that out is Jake Butt from Michigan, a guy that probably isn't a first-round price tag, but, could come in and have some time to learn from one of the best in the game. I really like Jake Butt. He was a vocal point of Michigan's offense for quite some time, and a guy that's played for a winner, a great coach, I think, out there, Harbaugh, doing this thing in Michigan now. But he's a guy that he can block, can be your third down guy, can be an every down guy, and is just someone else that I like. He tore his ACL, so it's going to take some time to rehab and get back, and who better to learn from while you're, trying to learn the NFL game than Jimmy Graham. So what did you see from Jake Butt this season?
Yeah, Jake Butt seems like just a great replacement for Jimmy Graham in the long term. If you're looking more down the line, I don't really see him being a number 2 guy. You definitely want that to be your number 1 guy, someone who's going to come in right away and produce after he recovers from his injury, learns a little bit from Jimmy. He didn't have the best quarterback at Michigan, and he was always the number 1 guy. He was always at the top of the list and the go-to. And I think the Seahawks, and in the NFL these days, you need a go-to guy. You need for your tight end position, you want a number 1. And I think this guy could become a top 5 player in the NFL if his knee recovers the way they're expecting it to.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a good point. And pretty much every great quarterback, they need a good tight end. And you're right, Jake Butt, I think, even fits the bill of somebody like Russ or anybody that it'd be a 1-2 punch, him and the Cowboys had it with Dallas Clark.
Yeah, and Jason Witten.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts had it with Dallas Clark.
Yeah.
Cowboys had it with Jason Witten. So, yeah, and, Gronk and the Patriots obviously have a great thing going as well. So, I do like Jimmy. I don't want Jimmy to go anywhere, but Jake Butt, I won't be too upset if he's a future Seahawk. And I'm sure – I don't know how Jimmy feels about being in Seattle. I feel like we're not using him right, so I can't imagine he's too happy. Kind of similar to Marshawn Lynch. I'm sure Marshawn is I know Marshawn Lynch is a great running back, but, Seattle just – it's not the right fit for some people, unfortunately. So, another guy that moving on, Cole Hikatini out of Louisville.
Yes.
That was Lamar Jackson's go-to guy this past year. And there's another guy that was their go-to man each and every time. 50 receptions, 8 touchdowns, led the team in both categories. And he's been to different schools. So 3 different schools, I believe, in his collegiate career, which is a good and a bad thing. He knows how to play with different type of players, different type of systems, and to find his niche at anywhere he goes. But it's also different because it's he hasn't had that adjustment period. When he doesn't really know one league and one league doesn't really know him. So and that's the thing. The professional game is all about adjustments, and we haven't seen if he can make those adjustments or not when teams change, how he changes with them. So that's one knock, I guess, on Cole Hikutini. Do you see anything from Hikutini that he could provide the Seahawks team?
Yeah, I think he's just a good late round draft pick, late round flyer, someone you could get the fifth, sixth round, maybe able to make a difference on your team, maybe a good number 2, just a prospect, kind of how they took a chance with Luke Wilson, that type of a guy, and you just kind of take a chance with him and see if he works out, and if he doesn't, it was a late round draft pick anyway. So nothing too special, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in the later draft. One of the later round draft guys I like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I like the late round flyer, maybe even undrafted free agent rookie, is Farrell Brown, a guy who was a special player for Oregon a couple of years ago until he hurt his leg. You want to tell me more about how he hurt his leg?
Yeah, it was in the middle of a game. I believe it was a touchdown, scored a touchdown.
Wow.
And just leg got rolled up on, caught under him, and it was ugly. Almost had to get amputated.
Wow.
And unfortunately had to sit out the 2015 season. But, it showed in the combine his strong work ethic and desire to win. Put up 24 reps, which it's not a crazy amount, but it's good. Somebody that a devastating injury, almost had to get his leg cut off, and came back and obviously has been working hard. Didn't have the strongest season for the Ducks, but I can't hold anything offensively that happened to that team. Royce Freeman, I believe, is going to be one of the best running backs in the nation, if not a Heisman winner, depending on their quarterback situation. But they had awful quarterbacks last year, awful, and unfortunately for Farrell's return, it wasn't pretty. The whole team just looked bad, and it's something that we hadn't seen for a while. Oregon always been one of the top teams in the Pac-12, and just getting beat up by everybody last year. So, like I said, it's unfortunate for teams that Farrell Brown will come as a discount, but I think that he's a guy that if you take a chance on him, the reward will be much higher than the risk for late to just a phone call of a tryout. So. I think teams will be excited. Players will be excited. He's one. You think of those guys that ball out of nowhere, and they're like no names. Like, I don't even remember drafting this guy. I think Farrell Brown will be one of those for some team here in the NFL, and I would enjoy if it was the Seahawks.
Yeah, he sounds like a Seahawks type of a guy who got injured and was a star player, and then he can come back, kind of work his way back into the mix, and figure it out on the practice squad for a couple of years, and be a star, and hopefully not fade off like Jermaine Kearse.
Well, I hope you're right, and I think that about wraps it up for these tight ends. So it was good talking to you.
Great talking to you as well.
Please subscribe and
comment.
Yes.
Like,
definitely
all
comment.
Those things.
Let us know what you think. And from some of the smaller schools or anybody, let us know who you think the Seahawks should draft or could draft and why. Down below.
Hit it. Peace.